Welcome to today's episode, brought to you by the Women in Medicine Summit, a transformational CME conference happening September 13th to 14th at the Drake Hotel in Chicago. Engage in leadership programming, learn negotiation skills, receive on-site coaching and mentoring, and see who will win this year's I Stand With Her awards. This year, we're excited to offer unique programming that includes a special session on how using improv comedy can bring fun back into medicine. We also have financial sessions tailored to help you navigate the complexities of personal and professional finances. Discover ways to advance into leadership roles, combat burnout, and either reignite your love for your current role or find joy in a new career path. Don't forget our Friday evening gala, a highlight this year you definitely won't want to miss. Register now at womeninmedicinesummit.org and be part of the movement that is shaping the future of healthcare. Join us to network, learn, and celebrate the power of women in medicine.
Welcome to the Revitalizing Doctor podcast. We explore with our guests how you can move from surviving to thriving as a physician. We know that when you connect with your values and authenticity, you can live a life that is fulfilling and not only good for you, but drives the necessary transformation in healthcare to take better care of our physicians, which means better care for our patients. Every month at Revitalize, we host free women physician professional education virtually. These sessions are all on Zoom, and you do need to email us to register so we make sure that you're verified and we've got the right people in the group. So in June, the session is Wednesday, June 22nd from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific. That's 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And the session is on rethinking imposter syndrome. We will be doing these Rev Rooms every month except for July. We're taking a deliberate month off in the peak of summertime to give ourselves and you a month to relax. So we'll see you back in August for these monthly rooms. And if you go to our website, www.peoplealwayshcc.com/revitalize, you can then click on Revitalize Events, and that will take you to a listing of all the events that we've got going on. And if you go to our About page, towards the top of the About page, we actually have a calendar that goes all the way out to the fall, and that highlights our career transitions course that will begin on September 7th. So lots of exciting things going on. Without further ado, I'm going to jump into an interview with my dear friend and colleague, Torree McGowan. As a word of warning, we did record this podcast from a hotel room when we were at a conference in Orlando this spring. So every now and again, you do hear some high-pitched screaming of children in the background going down a water slide. So I apologize for that, but I think the interview is so wonderful that you'll forgive us for that. So enjoy the interview. I have Dr. Torree McGowan on the podcast. Torree and I have been friends for years. We met through the Government Services chapter of the American College of Emergency Physicians. She has had such an interesting life and career. I'm not going to even try to give it justice. I'm just going to welcome her here and turn it over to Torree to tell us a little bit about who you are, where you live, what you do.
Well, I'm excited to have the chance to sit down and visit with you because it's been too long. My name is Torree McGowan. I am an Air Force veteran, Air Force emergency medicine trained physician. Spent 12 years on active duty, and then I separated from active duty in 2017. I then joined the Oregon Air Guard and spent 2 years just as an ER doc there while I was working on the civilian side as an emergency medicine physician as well. And then I spent 2.5 years commanding our CBRNE Enhanced Response Force Package, or CERF-P unit. I just turned over command of that 3 months ago, and now I am looking at a flight doc job with the Oregon Air Guard. And then on my civilian side, I work as an emergency physician in 2 critical access hospitals and 1 community hospital that's staffed by our group. When I'm not doing emergency medicine, I have two boys, a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, that we are homeschooling for the second year, which has been its own adventure. My husband has a farm, and anytime you can't find me, it's usually because I'm on a horse and I've turned off my cell phone because that's where I don't like to be bothered.
Wow, that is a lot. So just to recap, you are a civilian emergency medicine physician by day or night, and you're still in the National Guard.
Yes, ma'am.
How many deployments have you done?
I've done 2 combat deployments. So I went to Bagram, Afghanistan in 2013 and Balad, Iraq in 2009. And then with my Guard unit, I actually activated in January through March of 2021 as the officer in charge of the largest vaccine sites in Oregon. And we had 90 Air Force, Army personnel there administering vaccines for the state of Oregon.
Thank you so much for your service. I'm a veteran as well, but I am just blown away by everything that you've done overseas and then back home during a really challenging time.
It's been a weird couple of years.
Yeah. So on that note, you're an emergency medicine physician, your mom, your wife, you live in rural Oregon, you're in the National Guard. How are you doing?
It's been a really strange process over the last couple of years. When COVID hit, my kids obviously transitioned to virtual school and really did not do particularly well in that environment for a couple of different reasons. My husband is a farmer, and so that gives him a lot of flexibility, especially during the winter time. And so we actually decided to pull our boys out and do homeschool with them. And we've done that for 2 years. That has completely destroyed my life because the time commitment is just incredible. The first year of that, I had a lot of responsibilities that I couldn't put down. I was still commander of my unit. I had a lot of admin things that I was doing for my civilian job. I was still on the board of FACEP. All of those were still active commitments. And so when we figured out that we were going to homeschool the kids again this year, I really took a hard look at my life and remembering how incredibly difficult that had been being deployed. So when I was activated with my unit, I was 3 hours from home. So trying to command a unit and a mass vaccine site and then run home on the weekends and do laundry and do all the school things and try to have some sort of a life, it just wasn't sustainable. So this fall, when I realized we were homeschooling the kids again, I took a really hard look at my life about what do I need to put down of this and take a step back from so that I could maintain sanity. And it's been a weird journey, but nobody's on meds in my house. We still speak to each other and they have not failed school yet. So I'm thinking it's a victory at this point.
I would say it's a huge victory. And I'm just so thankful that you're willing to share this very vulnerable time. And I think there's a lot of people out there that need to pull some things off their plate, but they don't even know where to start. And they can't even get into that emotional space to do that. So how would you even suggest starting?
That's a really tough question because it's been a process for me. And some of that is just learning and understanding about myself. And I think, especially as emergency medicine, we are really good at just putting our heads down and keep going and keep making it work. Just work harder and it's okay. And we get used to that pace and that frenetic energy that happens. And so as I started this process, first of all, I was afraid that I was going to disappear. That if I wasn't the person that was in charge of everything, what was I? And that's actually a really weird experience here at GSS this year. So we are recording this at a conference. This is the first conference I've gone to probably in at least 7 years, probably longer than that I haven't spoken at or been in charge of planning. And this morning I had this crisis about, do I need to bring my laptop? And I couldn't leave it behind. It's sitting over there, because I was telling myself, well, you don't need it. You're not in charge of anything. You could show up with like a number 2 pencil and do everything you need at this conference. I couldn't leave it behind because I'm still not to the point where I've completely been able to drop that. But the process started with my counselor. So I have an absolutely wonderful, she's called a reintegration counselor with the VA, with the vet centers, technically not the VA, the vet center. And she's a combat veteran. She commanded a transportation company in the Army. I've been seeing her probably since about 2018. And she just helps me deal with all of the things of life. And some of the things I brought home with me from my deployments, as well as the things that we experience every day in the emergency room. And she really helped me understand that in some ways I was addicted to that, being needed to be the go-to person and having that define me, as well as that always being busy, never having a chance to just sit and be calm and quiet. And so she makes me do all of these uncomfortable things, and I cuss her for it. And then the next month I say, okay, this is actually better, but it's a process and it doesn't feel good when it's happening. One of the things that she's started me doing is meditation and mindfulness. And I am totally not one of those new age meditation sort of a people. So it's been uncomfortable, but one of the things that she really helped me learn how to do is tuning into what I feel when somebody asks me to do something. Because sometimes in my body, that answer is yeah, that sounds really interesting. And sometimes it's like, I actually don't want to go to that Zoom meeting. For me, has been the first step in saying, just getting to be able to feel that gut reaction has been really important to me so that I can start to identify whether or not I even want to do it. Before my brain gets involved, my gut reaction will tell me whether or not that's something that's going to bring more to my life or take it away. And so I'm getting very deliberate about those.
I really like that, keying into your body. And I have this theory that during residency, we're taught to ignore many body cues, simple things like, do you have to pee? Are you hungry? Are you tired? And what that did, I think, to me and to a lot of people, is you start to learn to shut off your body. You just don't respect it anymore. And then I would find that I didn't know. And I would, eventually be like, oh my gosh, I have to pee so bad right now. Or I'm so pissed right now. And it took a long time to start to reconnect with, oh, I'm getting like a tightness in my throat around this person. Or this is making me feel uncomfortable because I was so used to shutting that off immediately.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because we are taught so much to subjugate our own needs, and it's all about the patient. And I always smile when I run into the break room for my 5 minutes of lunch that I'm, wolfing down as I'm trying to return. My consultants have the most amazing ability to call me anytime I'm eating or peeing. And we don't have that opportunity to stop and relax. And you're right. You very quickly learn to just ignore it because that's what you do to get through.
Yeah, I'm not glad to hear, but it is nice to hear that your phone seems to go off at the most inopportune moments. And I was trying to have this conversation with a patient the other day, and it was a complicated situation. There was no right answer on how to manage this issue. And it really required shared decision making. And my phone just would not stop going off. And they were minor things. So I finally was like, I walked out of the room. We have great nurses where I work. And I looked at one of the nurses and I said, I really need to talk with this patient and not be interrupted unless someone truly is dying for the next 5 to 7 minutes. And so she held my phone. That sounds really simple. And if there's a non-physician listening, they're probably like, yeah, but that's not, when we're in residency and we're on call, you don't hand your phone off. You answer the phone. So something simple like that ends up creating unnecessary stress because I could just hand my phone off. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Are you a physician mom with school-aged children feeling utterly exhausted? My friend Dr. Sheeta Shafee invites you to take a little time this summer to join her in a small, intimate group for meaningful conversations. Dr. Shafee is an emergency physician, coach, and mom to 8-year-old twins. She understands firsthand what you're going through. This isn't a pizza party or a yoga class. You'll meet for 2 one-hour sessions twice a month starting in July to help you move out of exhaustion, let go of mom guilt, and live a life you're not only proud of, but can truly enjoy. Connect with her on LinkedIn or Instagram at Sheeta Shafee to learn more. Sheeta is spelled S-H-I-D-E-H, and Shafee is spelled S-H-A-F-I-E. You can also check the show notes for a link so you can connect with her there as well.
And you're right, it's hard to do that, but I hate, we have basically they're like iPhones that are our communication devices, and the lab can text you about the blood hemolyzed or this critical lab, and it's such an interruption to your workflow and to the important things that we really do, which is more important. Having that conversation about you have cancer and let's talk about what that means and where we go from here, or I need to redraw on bed 5. I leave my whistle phone at my computer all the time, and they yell at me, and I'm like, yeah, but you found me. When it's really important, you will find me. And if not, if it's something that can wait a few minutes, then let's let it wait a few minutes. And that is a huge sanity saver.
So I want to circle back to the meditation. And I had the privilege of interviewing Dr. Kat Landit earlier, and she mentioned it too. And I think I'm up to nearly 600 minutes of meditating. I have an app. I use 10% Happier. And, if it doesn't effing work, and I have resisted meditation for years. I just recently was listening to a Brene Brown, and the guest on said the magic number is 12 to 13 minutes a day. And sure enough, that is what 10% Happier works you up to. So I now will choose meditation over working out. For me, a lot of cardio is about, you're activating a sympathetic surge, and meditation is about activating your parasympathetic and vagal response, which emergency medicine physicians are greatly in need of. So I'm curious about, what's your meditation practice? Are you using any app? What does it look like for you?
So typically when I meditate, it's usually when I'm going to bed, and I use Insight Timer, which is another meditation app. They have some great ones that are for falling asleep. For me, one of the times that I realize when I am getting more stressed and having more problems is when I stop sleeping. So I am one of the laziest creatures you'll ever be around in your life. I've actually learned a lot about this and about sleep and fatigue through speaking. And I am somebody who needs about 9 to 9.5 hours a night of sleep. And I sleep between usually about midnight and 9 a.m. if you just leave me to my own devices. It's been really great with the kids in homeschool, because we can everybody sleeps on their own schedule and wakes up on their own schedule. So my preteen boy has undergone that normal shift towards night owl. And so he goes to bed about 11 and he wakes up. Actually, he'll sleep about 13 to 14 hours a day if I let him. But it's been nice to allow us all to get that rest. When I am stressed, sleep is what suffers for me. And that was actually one of the things that I noticed when I came back from Afghanistan, that I think was a manifestation of the stress that I was dealing with from that deployment. I had a hard time falling asleep, and I had a hard time staying asleep. And some of that I think is because we got shelled a lot. And so you were pretty hair trigger to be waking up because you had to go to the bunkers and be ready to respond. And we had a couple of bad IDF, indirect fire incidents there on base where we had mass casualties that came to the ER within 2 to 3 minutes of the strike and lost a lot of people. That was really hard for me to ramp back down from. And so now I'm much more sensitive to that. When I stop sleeping is when kind of all of the other things in my life start coming apart. And so I am certainly not very good at making sure that I'm doing it every day. But as I'm laying there in bed thinking, why am I not falling asleep? Then it's time to turn on some of the guided meditations. And that helps me, again, tune back into those feelings about, okay, what is it that is so hard right now that you're dealing with, that this is how it's coming up? Because I don't know about you, but I am really good about boxing things up, and we will deal with this one later. And what I've learned during the pandemic is at some point later has to come. And
Yeah.
that was kind of about 6 months ago when I finally turned around and there's this giant room full of boxes, like a hoarder's show, of all of the things that I'd labeled. I will deal with this later. I will deal with this later. I will deal with this later. I finally had to start unpacking some of that. And that's the not sleeping is my cue to, that's when you need to start behaving yourself and start dealing with some of that garbage that you're continuing to pile up, and stop ignoring it.
Yeah, that is so interesting because I think during the pandemic, some of our normal activities that we used to cover up, to numb, to avoid dealing with all of this crap, were taken away from us. And what I realized is, I think similar to you, is that there was, in my case, about 10 years of, I guess what's in the psychological literature, residue is the term. And I actually really like residue because when you go into a patient room or, a family member, your own family, there's a difficult interaction and you internalize that, this is hard and I'm upset about this. And then you're like, well, I'm just going to compartmentalize it. And man, if there's a better compartmentalizer than an ER doc, I don't know who it is. Maybe some of our special forces snipers probably are pretty good at compartmentalizing too, but we're right up there. But the dirty secret that nobody talked to me about it, like very, I guess, directly during residency, is that you really do have to unpack that stuff. And, I recently just wrote a blog about that, and I compare it to when you dump out the vacuum cleaner in your trash and that little poof cloud comes up. So I had like 10 years of poof clouds, that little trace residue that you can't really see on your clothes turned into like layers of cake. And you have to go through that, which is not fun. But I want to ask you, as you've been doing all this work and taking some things off your plate, it is hard. But what have been the golden nuggets that have come out of this?
I think that's the fun part, because I'm finally getting to those areas. Because one of the things that, again, Amanda, my counselor, has helped me realize and that I'm coming to understand is that every time we say no to something that we didn't want, or that we've let something go off our plate, it opens up opportunity for something that maybe is better. The economists talk about it as an opportunity cost. What is the opportunity cost of being so busy that you can't add anything else into your life? And it's really easy to just keep doing the same thing that you're doing because it feels safe and it feels this is what we know, even though maybe it doesn't serve us that way. The wonderful things that I've found are, I kind of made the joke that homeschool has ruined my life. It certainly has made things more difficult professionally, but all winter long, I got to go skiing with my kids on a Wednesday. We took Wednesdays as our PE days, and we went up and skied every week. And my 12-year-old is this super funny, sarcastic, smart kid that is really fun to hang out with. And he can't ski as well as I can, but he's getting there. And my parents never got to be that much in my life. I've never been that much in my own kid's life. and up until now. And you know this, I have a lot of, I think mom guilt is always a thing, and we all deal with it when we go to work and you have to leave your kids. I left my kids twice when I was in the military. So my oldest son was 4 months old when I deployed for 6 months. And then my youngest was 7 months old when I deployed my second time for, again, 6 months. And so my 12-year-old, I missed a year of his life. It was really awkward to be at the pediatrician and to have them ask, what was your son's first word? And I look at my husband and I say, I don't know. I wasn't there. I've really enjoyed this opportunity to get to know my kids again. And so that's been really good. The other thing that is just starting to happen is I'm trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. I thought I would be done by this point.
Me too.
I thought I'd know at this point. My counselor said the last assignment that she gave me that I've been chewing on since our last session is she said, you work so hard during the early part of your career and you say yes to all the things because you never know what's going to spark your passion. You don't ever know what's going to be the one thing that is that amazing piece that you really enjoy that takes you forward. And she said, you've done all of that and you've done all of this amazing work. Now is the time to reap that. And you don't have to keep going 100 miles an hour with the throttle full forward to prove yourself. You've done it. Now's the time that you get to sit back and look around and say, what of this that you've built is what you want to pick up and carry forward? And so now that's where I'm in the process of having a little bit more space in my life to be able to say, this is something that I'm interested and passionate about and have the credentials to carry me into that. So that's been the new part of what I'm exploring right now is what is it that I want to do that somebody's going to pay me to do? That's also a nice, important thing to create the next piece of what my life looks like. I'm just irritated that I'm still having to do that. Thought I'd be done by now.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. And what I noticed is, well, I've noticed two things. Well, when I took a step back and took some time off, regulated my sleep, I began to notice that my creativity was returning and my excitement and optimism was coming back. So that was really key for me. And then the other thing, it's funny about how we've had different experiences at this conference. This was the first conference that I did bring my laptop into the meeting room. And I usually just have so many different things I have to do that during any downtime, or frankly, if I would get bored, I would open up an email, work on, a project real quick. And this conference, I didn't do it. And I just enjoyed listening to my colleagues, even if it was a subject that, I'm not in the military anymore. So some of the topics are less relevant to me, but I just sat and listened in awe of what they're doing and being thankful that they are sharing their experiences from downrange. So I think, for the skeptic out there that's like, well, F that meditation, my attention and presence has returned, and everything you read about happiness is tied to those two things.
And one of the things that really helped change my mind and helped me a little bit more embrace the meditation part of it, because for me, rather than meditate, I'd rather go ride my horse. That my husband jokes, because when I'm having a bad day, he kicks me out of the house and he says, go be with your horses. That's my happy place. And that's actually been really hard in the pandemic because everything came home. I don't ever get to send my kids away. I don't ever get to I haven't been alone in my house in probably 3 years because everybody's home all the time.
Wow.
And that's hard. And I'm an introvert. And so I have to run away, and I run away to the barn. And so my husband will laugh and he'll say, okay, did you solve all the world's problems while you were out there? And usually the answer is yes. And now I know what I'm needing to do. But we took a vacation in January and went to Hawaii. And I told myself, okay, you're going to sit on the beach and you're going to read some books. One of the books that I read was called The Shallows. And it talks about how the internet has changed our brain. And I think that in itself is an interesting topic, but to me, it spoke a lot to our brains are incredible and they're very malleable and we can change them. But physically, our neurons will change when we do the same process over and over again. And that's when we build muscle memory and when we study and do all of those things, we're building those neural pathways. And for the longest time, I built a neural pathway of you don't ever get downtime. You have to be doing something important. You need to be checking email. You need to be responding to something. You've got something in your email box to sign. There's a form that needs to be signed. You need to write a lecture. You need to do air war college. You need to be, managing the kids or doing something. And I had built that neural pattern of always be busy, always have something to do. If you're sitting around doing nothing, you're not doing the right thing. And that book really helped me transform that idea of, and so learning how to be comfortable with not being busy has been one of the most, it makes the back of my neck itch when I feel like I need to be doing something and I'm not. And that's taken some real work. And that's a little bit of where I do use some of the meditation of realizing that feels bad in my body and how do I work through that and not letting that make me say yes to things I don't want to do, but learning to be comfortable with that feeling and realizing that that's part of an addiction that my brain had to being busy and that busy does not equal success. And uncoupling those two have been a big piece of this journey in getting comfortable with. I sat on a beach and I read nothing but trashy novels for a week. And the first couple of days, it was really hard. And I'd pick up my phone and I'd start to, and then I'd put it down, stop it. You don't need to look, nothing. The world is not going to end if you don't respond to that email. And pick up the book and read. By the end of the week, I was doing great and I didn't touch my phone at all. And now I'm actually much better with that I'm getting more comfortable with, I've had an email in my box for 2 or 3 days and I don't have to respond to it. I'll get to it when I'm ready. And that has been a powerful part of claiming that space back. And again, that mantra of don't just do work, do the work that matters.
Boy, that will be the tagline of the episode. Yeah, I think busyness is definitely a badge a lot of us wear. It feels good. Like you said, it has that kind of addictive property to it. But I guess what I would ask the listener is what is the busyness covering up and what is it keeping you from really doing?
That's what I've started to find and I'm kind of excited about it.
Well, this has been so fun, but to our listeners, we actually want to go grab a cocktail at this conference and catch up with our friends. So I'm going to move into our wrap-up questions. So what I think I already kind of know, but I'd like you to elaborate on what would be your ideal self-care day?
I sleep late because that's how I do it. I would have a cup of tea on my back porch and watch, not the sun come up because that should have happened long before I got out of bed, but just watch the morning move across my back pasture. So I look out over Mount Jefferson in Oregon on my back. I'm considering throwing some kayaking in there because I did some kayaking in Hawaii that I really liked. But I'm not sure if I'm good enough yet to not kill myself. So that's still a maybe. And then my husband is a fabulous cook. He would make me a fabulous dinner and I would go to bed totally full of something delicious.
That sounds really fun. The last question I have is, we're still in a pandemic and things are hard. We're both emergency docs. There's a lot of uncertainty all the time in our lives, but this has been a particularly challenging time. And I'd like to say that I think it's going to get easier, but I'm not so sure. I think we're moving through a very tumultuous time in the world. So what is your advice for people moving forward during a time that's going to probably include more change and tumult?
I think one of the most important things that has been powerful for me is to accept exactly what you just said. For the first couple of months of the pandemic, I had this attitude of, if I just get through this, and this is a lie that I finally recognized was a lie and stopped telling myself, because what I would say is, if I can just get through ASEP and get through those lectures, I'll be less busy. If I can just get through the kids through the end of school and it's summertime, I'll be less busy and it will get better. What I realized is that's actually a lie. It never gets better unless I change something of what I'm doing. The only way that I made it get better was this very deliberate, I don't know if everybody needs to do it quite as dramatically as I have, but just drop all of the things that are but the very essentials of my life, and then learn how to pick those back up of what was important to me. And accepting that I don't get to control what the rest of the world is doing, that change is the new constant, and the only part of that I own is a very small piece of that, and becoming very deliberate about how I approached those pieces that I could control. The other part of that is I stopped saying it will be fine if we just get through Delta wave.
Right.
If we can just make it past Omicron. I had no desire to learn the entire Greek alphabet, but we're all gonna.
Darn.
And so some of this harkens back to deployment. I never counted down the days of my deployment. I counted up, because this idea of you're there until you're gone. We're in this for the foreseeable future. And if you keep saying, if I can just make it through this next wave, or if I can just get through June or whatever, and it doesn't happen, it's demoralizing. Mm-hmm. When it doesn't change, when it's June and you're still in the middle of it and the next wave is coming and the kids are still busy and you still have no time. Instead of that, I've changed my perspective to, I'm here until it's done, whenever that is. And while I am here, I will be the master of this, not its slave.
That is such a great point. And I noticed that, unfortunately, too late into this shit show, that the major issue was a refusal to accept that it is the way the world is right now. And I will continue to have people come into my emergency department that do not believe they have COVID and are hostile to me suggesting a COVID test, which defies I'd say it defies my understanding, but I do understand it. I understand that they have fallen victim to mis and disinformation. And I can be upset with it, but it is a reality. And that constant lack of acceptance, I didn't recognize that, because I think the other thing for emergency medicine and veterans is we identify with being fighters. And it felt good to be angry and to say that is unacceptable. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't like it and I don't think it's right, but it is reality. So, all right, let's end on a happier note. What are you most excited to do in 2022?
Well, honestly, one of the most exciting things is we just finished putting up my horse arena. So I'm going to be spending a whole lot more time on my horses. And if I can, August of 2022, drop my kids off at school and they will be educated by somebody else and somebody else can teach my son long division, that's when I win. That's when that will be the pinnacle of feeling safe enough that my family can kind of resume life again and I can spend some more time with my horses.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Torree. This has been such a treat. And I'm so thankful to have you as my friend and my colleague.
We should have had wine for this one. But
we're going to have it soon. Don't worry.
I feel like it was just a chance to chat with you, which was really fun.
Thanks for listening to the Revitalizing Doctor podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Revitalize Women Physician Circle, founded by Dr. Linda Lawrence and Dr. Andrea Austin, your host. You can connect with us on our website at www.peoplealwayshcc.com/revitalize. You can tweet at us at Revitalize Women. And please connect with us on LinkedIn at Revitalize Women Physician Circle. We look forward to helping you go from surviving to thriving. This podcast represents our opinions and the opinions of our guests. It does not represent any entity that we work for or with, including the military, the government, or any other institution. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.
Hi, it's Dr. Risa E. Lewis, dropping in to tell you about a book that Dr. Adara Landry and I wrote. It's called Microskills, Small Actions, Big Impact. It's a business self-help book coming in 2024 by HarperCollins. Pre-order now. Microskills, Small Actions, Big Impact, wherever you buy your books.